Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to my presentation, Health and Sustainable and Economical Homes for all Australian, because it's not about passive house in reality, it is about health, sustainability and economics. First of all, I want to thank you. I want to let you know that I'm feeling honored to be able to present to you guys, and to let you know this is my first presentation I'm giving outside of my business for I don't know how long. Actually, okay, I had that with AFA and the BDA, but I wasn't presenting outside for a long time because I didn't have the time. So it's really important for me that we actually talk about it in this early state of your development, because you need to get that right, and it's better to have a generation coming out of university that knows what matters. So that's the reason it's really in my heart as well, speaking with you guys. So a fun fact about me is I didn't like passive house, guys. I was against passive house for the first 10 years of my career. Yeah, I came to my senses, and I will show you that journey a little bit now up front. So I started my career as a carpenter back in Germany, building eco homes. And I actually then moved to Ireland and started my own company building eco homes, but I really quickly realized that eco does not mean sustainable. Yeah, so I started to build, I started my building company, and then I brought this all together and was looking for sustainable building solutions, not just eco. Like this eco doesn't mean it's sustainable, and that's what I was looking into. Then I was getting really introduced into this passive house, in the idea of passive house, and I really quickly realized that sustainability does not necessarily mean health. So healthy buildings and sustainable buildings are maybe not the right thing. It could be really sustainable, guys, to let us be killed by our buildings and the planet is actually healthy again. But it's probably not what we speak about sustainability when we want to get sustainability. So, so health and sustainability is not the same. So we need to really think about health first. And on this point, I want to reach out to you guys. If you're getting your dream car, guys, you're getting the dream car that you ever wanted, whatever it is, your Tesla or whatever, and you're getting this car for free. But there is now a little twist to the whole story. This is the only car you will get for your lifetime. So how will And I don't know how old you are. I don't see your face, but I guess you're not in the 40s yet. And I honestly must say, my car, I've abused a lot, my body. Yeah, that's the only car, your only body you're getting for this lifetime. And health is only something you value as long as you have it. Like you don't value it when you have it. That's really important. So then I really started to dive deep into the passive house world and trying to understand passive house. Then I worked for the European Union in knowledge transfer and how to transfer knowledge between the different member states. And here I compared the different national building standards to passive house. And the conclusion was that passive house is actually providing the best results, the most accurate results of everything out there. Then I did my master degrees in Germany at Hochschule Karlsruhe in Karlsruhe. And I did my master degree in Canada, and I specialized in building physics and building science. Then I really started to understand that passive house is the foundation of healthy and sustainable buildings that are economicals. And the reason for that is not because passive house had a breakthrough in science, it's just going back to the roots. Yeah, it's just applying the laws of physics and economics. Yeah, so that's what it is all about. Then I came to Australia. I was starting to, in 2015, I started to build high-performing buildings in Australia. And then 2017, I founded Smart Plus. And then 2019, I made out of Smart Plus Academy, because I've wanted to focus on education. And like I said before, like I'm having over 20 years experience in these high performing buildings, and I've trained already far over 50% of the certified passive house professionals in Australia. We supported over 200 companies already, and our exams, we're having a pass rate far over 90%. We're reaching now the 95, often 100% pass rate now. So you can be sure that you are in safe hands with us. So, so what do we offer? We offer on our website CBD courses. So if you need CBD points, you can do CBD courses on our website, and free courses as well. Then obviously we offer the Passive House Designer certification and the Tradie certification. So that's all what we do. So that was my little introduction. And now let us start with the presentation and let us dive deep. So let us start with why. First of all, I would like to warn you. Yeah, so what you're getting here right now is like taking a drink from a fire hose. Yeah, so that's the way it will feel, guys. It's so much information. You're getting it as a recording, so you have the time to go over it again and get all these golden nuggets that are in there and take them out for yourself and embody it, guys. Yeah, so it will feel a little bit like taking a drink out of a fire hose. And at the end of the presentation, I will stick around and we can discuss it and talk about it. And I can answer you your questions. The ones that are not showing up, they're not getting this privilege. So yeah, you're the lucky ones. Good. So let us start with why. So why is our building so important? Think about this one. We are spending like, what is Passive House able to deliver? We are able to deliver a healthy and sustainable building that is economical. Passive House separates the indoor environment from the outdoor environment. While the outdoor environment is changing, the indoor environment stays constantly between 20 and 25 degrees. So how is that done? How do we achieve that? For this, we are creating a high-performing building envelope. We supply fresh air 24/7, and we're making use of free energy harvesting and heat recovery. So let us talk a bit about health. Why is health so important? Why is health and homes so related to each other? Because we're spending over 90% indoors and only 10% outdoors. And this indoor environment is not our natural habitat. It's an artificial environment that we are creating. So we must make that as healthy and comfortable as possible. So that's the reason why health is so important, because we're spending our life in our boxes that we're building. Then next one, sustainability. When we look to the impact of the different industries, we see that the building industry has an impact of 39%. Yeah, so we're having 17% is the residential residential building, 11% is the commercial buildings, and like the use of these buildings, and 11% is the building industry itself to create our infrastructure, to create our buildings. So this is the reason why the building industry is the solution to fight climate change. We are the solution, guys. You choose the field that is making the difference. We are the ones that are able to save the planet and making sure that the generations to come still have a planet like we know it. Then the next one, economics. Yes, so when we look to our buildings, we see that the heating and cooling in the building is 40% of our operational costs, and 21% is our hot water cost. And this is exactly what Passive House is tackling. It's tackling the 40% and the 21%. And overall, Passive House is able to cut the energy, or like the household running costs by 50%. When we look to the average household spendings, so that is not just in the home, it's our living. So what is a household spending? So we see that the current housing costs, selected dwellings, is the highest cost in our life. What is costing us more? Buying our home or paying rent or anything else? It's the biggest expense in our lifetime. Yeah, so we really need to nail that down. The problem is people spending more time on choosing their makeup or choosing their next car or their next whatever gadget they are buying than actually understanding what they're actually buying. Like nobody really looks in what is the performance of my building. Yeah, what is in there? What is that? They just say I want my castle and that's it. So I think we have to create a shift in the society that they actually know that this is their biggest spending, and they must understand what they're actually getting. And how that is impacting their life. And then another one, when we look down there, the domestic fuel and power, and that's operating the building. Yeah, there we see that is as well a really important part in our expenditure, and that's an expenditure that is that's continuous. Yeah, so if you're able to cut that one down, that means we're getting far more security because we're not depending any longer on fuel and power prices. Yeah, so that's related. One thing that I would like to point out with the part below, let me use my laser pointer, that you know what I'm talking about. So we spoke about this part, we spoke about this part, and down here, we're having now the domestic fuel power, how much that is actually costing, and we see that the low-income people, their percentage is far higher. They're spending more of their overall energy like cost of their living. The operating of the building is one of the major expenditures, because you need to use in Australia your heating and cooling to actually survive. Yeah, if you're building this brick tents, like if you keep building that, then yeah, we're having the low income ones. They're the ones that are losing most of it. The high income ones, they're actually spending more money on like luxury goods. But this shows you that this is a fundamental need, like this heating and cooling in the moment, and we could really cut that down. Okay, so that was the why, and I think that gives you already a really good overview. So let us move into health. So now, when we speak about health, I want to point out that this is nothing new here in Australia. We have the knowledge in Australia, and the politics or the groups out there that are talking about it already. So there is knowledge and understanding about health and comfort in Australia. The relation between health and home is already met, and it is now during the pandemic even more important, like how our buildings are built, because we're spending so much, even more time there. Like usually we spend 50% there, but now in the pandemic, we spend 100% of our time there. So our home is super, super important, and it has a really big impact on our health. So what are the findings of this paper here? So what's the cost of poor energy performance in our buildings? Obviously, the higher energy bills, and we see by really simple upgrades, not even passive house upgrades, we're able to cut the prices down by 50%. And in ACT, there they spoke of a saving of $700 a year already. Then the next thing we have to speak about, because it's as well it's as well related to it, is the increased mortality. Yeah, like there is 6% of the Australians die because it's too cold, and 1% die because it's too hot in their buildings. 7% of the deaths that are happening could be avoided by actually building passive houses. Yeah, so it's something that we need to talk about and really see it. If you look to Sweden, where it is only 3.9% compared to 7% in Australia, something is wrong there. Like the Swedish climate is far harsher than the climate here in Australia. Other impacts, when we look to a more global way, we know that 7 or 8% of the asthma burden in Australia with children in the age of 14 or under is associated to damp housing. Yeah, so again, like asthma, like it's a little bit ridiculous. Like I figured out a few months back that I actually have asthma. Yeah, like I was wondering why I don't get energy, why I'm not feeling well, why my digestion system wasn't working properly. And I'm bloody teaching that stuff. Yeah, like I didn't even know I have it. Yeah, and then I just took this easy spray, chip, and my life is good again. Like it's asthma is, there's a lot of aspects to it. There's like a real mold related aspect and building environment aspects to it, but as well as psychological one, but we're not going there in our presentation. Then in New Zealand, we're having this 50% like New Zealanders living in insulated houses have a 50% less likelihood to have respiratory symptoms, and those living in uninsulated houses. So we see people living in insulated houses, not saying passive house, just really simple, already improve of 50%. In Europe, we know that 40% of there's a 40% higher likelihood to develop asthma if you're living in a damp and moldy home. So, and in US, 21% of the asthma cases reported in US are attributed to dampness and mold exposure in homes. So that's something that we really need to be aware of. Keep in mind, these are studies, and this is what is scientifically proven. It might be bigger. Yeah, so especially look to that little figure in Australia. It could be far bigger. Australia has one of the highest asthma rates in the world. Yeah, keep that in mind as well. Yeah, it's something we really have to get under control. Then the increase of public health spendings. So we see here now the spendings on the right. Asthma alone in the year 2015 was costing 28 billion. Asthma alone, 28 billion of treating asthma. And all the other lung-related diseases was 98.2 billion in the year 2008. So this is expenditure that our society is paying, and we can really reduce that by building better homes. So why are buildings so impactful? Because we're spending 90% in there and only 10% outside in the natural environment. So there are only two health criteria that we need to fulfill. Yeah, in buildings, we only have two health criteria. The indoor comfort needs to be no health risk, and the indoor air quality needs to be no health risk. So this is our two criteria that we need to fulfill. So indoor comfort, let us talk about indoor comfort first. So when we speak about comfort, we have to keep in mind that we are all humans with the same needs. Yeah. So what I mean by that, there's something missing. Okay, what I mean by that is our body temperature. Like my body temperature is around 37 degrees, probably a bit higher in the moment with all this craziness happening. But it doesn't matter if I'm living in Sydney, in Hobart, in Darwin. Doesn't matter on the climate zone we are living in. We are humans, and our body temperature is around 37 degrees. And this is everywhere the same. So comfort is health. So why is comfort health? Because first it's comfortable, then it's uncomfortable, then it's unhealthy, then it's a health risk, then it's a health threat, and then it kills us. Simple as that. Comfort means that the body sensors telling us that we are not under stress. Comfort tells us that everything is fine with our system. Simple as that. Comfort is a health requirement. Yeah, and we're having all these human needs. We're all having the body temperatures 37%. It's not dependent on location, our need for that, and we have the need for comfort. So what is comfort? So comfort is defined in the study by Ole Fanger in 1970. So he was putting a lot of people into in an environment and then tested them. And the outcome was the comfort zone is between 20 degrees and 27 degrees and a relative humidity of 30% to 70%. So what is the comfort zone depending on? Air temperature, radiant temperature, and relative humidity. So these are the main ones that are really important. In a passive house, we are stricter than the comfort zone. We are saying in passive house that we're staying between 20 and 25 degrees and a relative humidity of 30% and 60%. Could you guess why we are not allowing temperatures of 27 degrees? We are sleeping in that place. Yeah, the comfort zone is for awake people. Yeah, like if you're awake, you could be comfortable at 27, but if you try to sleep at 27 degrees, like you're for sure not getting the rest. Yeah, like you might be able to sleep, but you're not getting rest and you're not able to recharge your batteries. Yeah, so this is the reason why we're only going to 25 degrees. And then the relative humidity is as well a comfort reason, but as well a health reason because it's too close. The 70% is too close to the mold risk at the 80%. Yeah, so there's another reason for only 60% as well. So passive house stays, like I said just now, between 20 and 25 degrees and a relative humidity of 30 to 60%. So thermal comfort, if you're staying in this comfort zone between 20 and 25%, then 92% of the humans are feeling comfortable. There's always this few people that you can't make happy. It's just, we're humans. There's always somebody out there that is not being satisfied. So, but with a 92% satisfaction, we are already happy. Like I explained already, the sleep is why we're not going higher than 25 degrees. So let us now go into the indoor air quality. For this, let us see if that works. I would like to share with you a little video, and I hope that we are able to play that now.
You will decide how this story ends. This is a story about us, the indoor generation. A generation that spends 90% of its life indoors. It all started the day we left nature behind. We filled our homes with lovely things and all the stuff we wanted. Our homes became places we would never want to leave. Artificial light replaced daylight, and we built our houses so that nothing could escape. We cooked and showered, breathed and played, slept and sweated. But we had closed ourselves in to a point where nothing could get out. So when the air turned bad inside, we tried fixing it with chemicals. And we put in little artificial suns everywhere to make the darkness bearable. That's when things started to happen. Hard to notice in the beginning. Some needed help to sleep, to breathe, to not itch. Many of us even started to feel sad. So we turned on happy lamps to make the sadness go away. Then, scientists discovered that the air inside our homes is up to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. And that the lack of daylight can affect children's learning and increase blood pressure. It turns out that kids' rooms often have the highest concentration of toxicants in the house. In fact, millions of homes are unhealthy to live in. They discovered that living in damp and moldy homes increases the risk of asthma by 40%. And I learned that millions of people like me suffer from asthma and allergies caused by a bad indoor environment. And so, here we are. How the story ends is up to you, because it's not written yet. If you care about the indoor generation, do something. Begin to think and live differently. Let light and fresh air into your life again. Even small changes can make a huge difference for coming generations. Learn how at theindoorgeneration.com.
Okay, so I think it's a pretty powerful little video clip there. So what are the main takeaways from this? We spent over 90% indoors. We are closing ourselves in and nothing can escape. When the air turns bad inside, we're using chemicals, air freshener, to get the smells out of it. Yeah, we're not getting fresh air in, we're using even chemicals. Then the indoor air is often 5 times more polluted than the outdoor air. And the kids' rooms are the highest levels of toxins. And mold and dumpy homes having a 40% higher risk of asthma. So we have to let fresh air into the building. So how do we get fresh air into the building in all the time? So now, how is the air quality in your home? Do you know it? Do you measure it? Maybe something to consider. Yeah, so the air quality is something that we often don't even feel and notice. So it's something that we need to measure. Our sensors are not designed for measuring air quality and carbon oxide concentrations. So there are now harmful substances and we will cover mold, particles, and carbon dioxides. There are more of them, like the VOCs, radium gas, and odors. They are covered in why Passive House is the first step on our website. So it's a free course or a paid CPD course. It's the same content. The CPD has then actually questions in there as well. The free one is free, and you're getting the whole content for free. So it's a course of 2 hours covering what we're covering today in more depth. Good. So now let us start with mold. Yeah, so mold, what are symptoms of mold that could actually occur? We have acute symptoms like dry hacking cough, flu-like symptoms, or even behavior changes. So if your spouse or partner is behaving a little bit weird, maybe it's just a mold exposure, guys. Yeah, maybe nothing wrong with the person, might be just some mold. Yeah, and then as well, all the stuff below. And then chronicle, we have fever, we have headaches, and dizziness. So all that could be caused by mold exposure, guys. So it's something we should be really, really careful about. Yeah, so for mold to form, there are only 4 things that are needed. It's nutrition. Mold needs food. It's a living being. Yeah, it needs energy. It's a living being. And it needs a source of life. It needs spores. Yeah, and we always have that around. There's always spores out there. There's always energy. Like we could get rid of energy living in a freezer, but I think that's not in our interest. We want to live at 20 degrees. Nutrition, there's always some dust particles around. So yeah, so these 3 things are not there. The only thing that we can control is the moisture. And that's exactly what we do in a Passive House. So that a mold can form, we like that the mold risk gets high, it could form earlier. We need a relative humidity of 80%. Yeah, and in a Passive House, we are making sure that we are not reaching this 80% relative humidity, and that no surface or no point has a temperature of 12.6 degrees anywhere in the building. Yeah, because this is that's the temperature normally that we're having the 80%, and then already a potential mold growth. Then other harmful substances is now the particle pollution. And now when we speak about particle pollution, something to talk about. Now when we see masks, we're not necessarily talking about particle pollution any longer and thinking of other bits and pieces, but I think it's still fitting. So particle pollution, we can see here that like all these diseases, heart attack, stroke, all they are related as well to particle pollution. Okay, heart attack, respiratory diseases, asthma, and we know that the indoor air is causing 3.5 million deaths in the world, and 3.2 is the outdoor air causing it. It's not looking too good about Australia. If you're looking where the deaths are happening, obviously there's Asia in there as well, so it's not only Australia. Yeah, but yeah, we really have to look out for that. So when we speak about particle pollution, we have to look at the certain cooking processes are causing it: cigarette smoke, exhaust fumes, tire abrasion, bushfire, obviously, and dust storms. So mainly, it's outdoor sources. Outdoor sources are mainly causing the particle pollution in buildings. So now, when we talk about Passive House has an F7 filter in there that is taking out particles that are smaller than 0.001 millimeter in diameter. Yeah, so that's what a heat recovery ventilation system is doing. It uses an F7 filter to filter the air, so particles is already looked after. So one thing that I want to point out is bushfires. Yeah, so who did not experience bushfires and problems with it? Like, I was sitting in my apartment, my eyes were itchy, I had a cough, I didn't feel well at all when the bushfire season was on. And I had no control over my home or my office. So we need to be able to separate the indoor environment from the outdoor environment to make sure that it is healthy and safe in there. And then I don't know if you know that, but we had false alarm going off in buildings, in like whole office blocks in CBD, like in the city of Sydney, and as well other places. So what did they do? They switched off the fire alarms because the alarm was going off the whole time, and it was before COVID, so nobody was going home, and home office hasn't been seen as an option. So now everybody is in a building with switched off fire alarms. Or maybe it's not even switched off, but they say, yeah, it's only the smoke. Imagine now there's really a fire. Yeah, a 50-story building, and everybody thinks it's just a false alarm, or the fire alarm system is already switched off, or the fire brigade is busy because of false alarm around the whole city, and they're not coming to the real fire. So it's really something that needs to be discussed. So here, this is my apartment in Manly, and you see here, this is this 50 milligrams per cubic meter, this red line. Soon we are crossing that line, it's out of the healthy zone. So if we're staying below here, then we normally say that's not a problem. Soon we're coming above that level, then we are in the unhealthy zone. And you see how that was going crazy. It went up to nearly 14 times the levels that would be seen as okay. But now when you look at this, like the particle size, what everybody talks about is the 2.5, the 4 and the 10. Yeah, so they're only this part here on the top. The biggest one is the PM1. Yeah, smaller than 0.001 millimeter. And this is what the F7 filter is not able to filter. So in the bushfire season, we need a HEPA filter. We're needing better filters. But now in a passive house or in airtight buildings that having a heat recover ventilation system, they are able to actually control it now. Yeah, they can just change the filter, and now they're able to control the bushfire. In a not airtight building, you can't. You just can't. Yeah, so it's not a problem of passive house, but passive house is able to solve it. The others, they are not. Yeah, that's simple as that. So now, next one is our carbon dioxide. So let us talk about carbon dioxide. So do you know your carbon dioxide levels in your building? Probably not. The outer air has about 400 parts per million. We are now obviously at 420 already because the parts per million are increasing. We say normally in a building, 1,000 parts per million is good air quality, and above 1,000 parts per million, we normally say it's harmful for us already. Above 5,000, we say it's toxic. Yeah, so we still have play for the toxic levels, but above 1,000, we shouldn't be there. So in a passive house, if it's set up properly, then we have never levels above 1,000 parts per million. Yeah, so passive house is looking after that. So where is carbon dioxide coming from? Obviously from people, from animals, household chemicals, open flames like gas cooking and cigarette smoke. So who did not have that issue before, that you had an 8 hours of sleep, and you woke up and you thought, I don't feel rested at all. Could it be that your CO2 levels are a little bit too high? Yeah, and that they're actually not giving you the rest and the oxygen, because oxygen is the fuel of life. That's the energy, where the energy is coming from. So if you're not getting enough oxygen, if you're not able to burn it, it's not working. When I had my asthma, my digestion system wasn't working. Yeah, that's because of lack of oxygen. The oxygen is needed to digest. Yeah, so it's super, super important. So we have to be careful with that. And then in a passive house, we're looking after that with a heat recover ventilation system. So are CO2 levels a problem only in airtight buildings? So let us discuss that now. Is it a problem in leaky buildings as well? So here in my apartment in Manly, it's not an airtight building. It's a typical apartment, single glazed. I can look to the outside, to the frame like everybody else, not just to the glazing. It's total typical apartment here in Australia. So I decided to make a coffee in a maybe not too efficient way by using 4 plates. Yeah, and in the time I was cooking the coffee, just making one coffee, I was reading my CO2 levels in my apartment. And this is now the reading that I got. So you see at 840, the CO2 level already hit my first sensor in the living dining kitchen. And 840, it started to rise, 855. So obviously like making a coffee is not taking 15 minutes. It's 5 minutes on. Yeah, the cooker is on for 5 minutes, but obviously it takes a while until the CO2 is exposed through the whole room. So now 8:55, 15 minutes later, now I'm already above 1,000 parts per million. And I just made a coffee, okay? Not in the most not in the most efficient way with using all 4 plates, but having 4 plates on for 5 minutes gets you already in a not airtight building above the 1,000 parts per million. And then I went over to 10:35. So in other words, what's that? 1.5 hours. I was exposed to an unhealthy level of CO2 in a not airtight building by 5 minutes of cooking. So this is the living dining kitchen. That's the bedroom. Like the bedroom is like, for getting to my bedroom where the sensor is standing, I need to go out of my kitchen, cross my front door, like there's a little area that I have to cross, then go down the hallway, past the bathroom, past the laundry, go into my bedroom, past my bed, cross, go down to my bedside table on the other side, and then down there in that corner is this sensor. So you see now it took a bit longer, so it's probably 15 minutes. And even here near, like it didn't go into the 1,000 parts per million, but you see that even the cooking in the kitchen had now open door, like I didn't close my door to the bedroom. It even had that one really leveled up. But now because it's so far away, it actually took longer to come down again. Yeah, so the problem of CO2 is not a problem of airtight buildings. It's a problem of buildings, yeah, that are not ventilated properly. Yeah, good. Yeah, covering the rest would be now a bit too much. So VOCs, obviously, VOCs, be careful with VOC sensors if you're using VOC sensors, because they're harmful VOCs and they're not harmful VOCs. So these readings you could use as well a dice. It tells you nothing about how harmful it is for you. It's just you could use a number generator coming to the same results. So VOC sensors are not really useful, but something to look out for. Radon gas is luckily not really a problem in Australia, and odors are something. Odors is something that we have to. We don't want to have our bathroom smells or toilet smells in our bedrooms and living areas, obviously. So it's something we have to look after. So how do we get now the fresh air into our buildings? And how much fresh air do we actually need? So from studies, we know that every person needs 30 cubic meters per hour of fresh air in the building. So we can use window ventilation is not sufficient. It's already known. Going into the details of that would take too long, but you will see that in the longer version on the website. Incidental versus controlled ventilation. Like incidental ventilation, we need an incident, like a pressure difference between inside and outside, a temperature difference between inside and outside, wind. Then we have an incident, but it's the nature is not providing us a constant force that we can use to ventilate the building. So we are not having a controlled ventilation. So for this, we need mechanical ventilation. So here, Passive House requires a heat recovery ventilation unit. And now we are getting provided fresh air 24/7, and air gets filtered and reduced dust and allergies is actually happening. Yeah, so especially somebody with allergies, hay fever is another thing I suffer. Obviously I want to live in a passive house as soon as possible because of knowing the benefits. And I must say, all my clients that I've been working with in the past and that I have still contact with, they all tell me their health issues decreased by living in nearly passive houses, not even passive houses. Like their skin rashes went down, their asthma went left completely, lung problems, coughings, all that stuff was gone. It's pretty amazing. And everybody that I was still in contact had that experiences. So let us recap health for a second. We're spending over 90% indoors. The indoor environment should not give any cause of health risks. The indoor climate must be comfortable. Yeah, we need to stay in the comfort zone because of then we are able to get the rest that we actually want. So let us now move over to sustainability. And you realize that I spent a lot of time on health because a life without health is not worth anything really. Like it's really reduced. If your health is not well, then your life is really like it's not there. You don't have that energy. So please look after your car. Yeah, the only one you're having. Yeah, just reaching out to you again. I wouldn't like to hear that when I was in my early 20s or so. Okay, sustainability. So now let us go into sustainability, and I will make that now really visual for you. And probably you have never heard sustainability in the way that I'm explaining it to you. And I think it's a really good way of looking at it. When we're looking at the everyday impact of us, we know that when we're looking to our landfills, we're putting, every person in the world puts 0.5 kilo of trash into our landfills every single day. If you're now looking to the CO2, that's 15.5 kilograms of CO2 every single day that we're putting into the atmosphere. In other words, 31 times the rubbish you see lying around is actually going into the atmosphere. All the rubbish that you are having in your rubbish bin and you're putting out there, you could say that's 31 times that amount that you're putting just now into the atmosphere. So this is the impact that we're having. Every day we are putting 15 kilowatt hour, in average, we're putting 15 kilowatt hours of CO2 into the atmosphere. That's 100,000 cubic meters of CO2 that we're putting into the atmosphere. You see this little figure here? That's a human. This cube that you're seeing here, that's the volume that we're putting of CO2 into the world every single day. This here is a 2-story building, this square. Yeah, this is the impact that we're having. And people, they say that that is not having an impact on our environment. I don't know where they're living. It has to have an impact. Yeah. Now here in Australia, because we're living in the first world, we have to expect that we're putting 1 to 2 times our body weight of CO2 into the atmosphere every single day. This must change, guys. This really must change. And what is our landfill for CO2? You see the thin sliver around our globe? That's the landfill that we're using. Yeah, so we're always having this argument that the CO2 levels were always going up and down, and there's no proof of global warming, all this BS talk out there. Yes, it has been moving in the last 800,000 years up and down. Yeah, from down here, say 150 ppm, like parts per million, up to 300 parts per million. That is the shift that was naturally occurring. Since the industrialization was happening, we went up here to over 400 parts per million. In other words, we added 1/3 of CO2 into the atmosphere already, what is normally naturally occurring. We're having a massive impact to our climate change with the CO2 that we're putting into the atmosphere. If you want to put it into another metric, every second, we are letting off 3 Hiroshima bombs of heat energy in our oceans. Every second, we're letting 3 Hiroshima bombs going off. This must stop. And we are the solution, guys. Like, we are the ones that can really make a difference with our industry. So, and we have to take actually as well responsibility for that. So what is caused by that? Yeah, we're having our massive storms, we're having our floods, we're having our droughts, and we're having our bushfires. This is caused, we have more extreme weather events because of climate change. And we're having always these new records, every year, new records, or every decade, let us say it, then we can be really sure that we're actually hitting the next record. This is our impact, and the costs of the destroyed buildings, the costs of the destroyed infrastructure, the cost of the destroyed nature and droughts and desalination and all that stuff that needs to happen is massive. Yeah, like the cost that we are paying for our not conscious behavior with our planet is unbelievable. Like, we are playing gods right now and destroying our own resources, our own habitat. It's crazy. So back here again, 39% of the CO2 emission comes from us, the building industry. 11% is the industry, 70% is residential, 11% is the commercial side. Yeah, so we are the solution. We can make a difference, and it's so super easy. Like Passive House shows it. It's not rocket science. We just have to do it. Then what is Passive House tackling? Passive House is tackling exactly this big part, the 40% and the 21%. This is what is cut down by 90%. And that's the reason we're able to save the operational costs by over 50% of our buildings. And then we know as well that buildings are the biggest investment of our lifetime, and as well the biggest ongoing costs that we're having every single year for actually operating our buildings. So, and that is what Passive House is able to cut in half. So when we speak about sustainability, we have to be smart. Yeah, it makes no sense to get into trying to save the planet without being smart about it. We have to be smart, and smart means we have to think about economics. Yeah, and here we really have to speak about what it costs us. What is the cost of actually saving it? And here we come to reduce, produce, store. First, we have to reduce, then we have to produce, and then we have to store. Every kilowatt hour that we don't need to produce, and we don't need to store. And every production and every storage has losses. Yeah, every production and every storage has losses. So reduction is the key. Performance first, guys. The first thing that we have to achieve in our buildings is the performance first approach. That's really what we have to do. I said it already before, the building industry has the biggest potential for reducing the CO2 emission, not only from the quantity, but as well from the cost effectiveness. And the beauty of it is, soon we're building thermally insulated buildings that are high performing. We are not only reducing our CO2 emissions, we are gaining health. Yeah, it's a health risk that we're actually getting rid of. So it's only a win-win situation here. So let us recap now sustainability. So climate change is caused by us. Equal to 3 Hiroshima bombs of heat energy is getting off every single second in our oceans because of the CO2 that we put into the atmosphere and creating this glass house effect. Then the building industry and the use of buildings are responsible for 39% of the CO2 emissions. What makes us the solution, guys? Yeah, you choose the right, if this is important for you, you choose the right field for your profession, because here we can make massive differences. Then energy savings, we can reduce the heating and cooling often by more than 90%. Yeah, this is what we're able to do with the Passive House approach. And we can reduce the emissions by over 50% in the buildings just by applying Passive House. And we're gaining health and comfort. Good. Passive House is the lowest hanging fruit to fight climate change economically. Yeah, so we're coming now to the economical side, and everybody is always saying Passive House is too expensive. Passive House is too expensive. It's total bullshit, guys. Yeah, it is total. It's so not true. People that don't understand economics will say that, but Passive House is not expensive. So let us look into the economics. So like we know already, we're having here, buildings are the biggest one-off investment in our lifetime. They are the investment into our future, into our retirement. They're often seen as an investment. So we need to look at them as well as investment on that side. And as well, our operational costs are highly dependent on the cost of our fuel that we're using for heating and cooling. Yeah, so if we're able to reduce our heating and cooling quantity, we are reducing the risk dramatically, because prices can go up and down, but if I don't need it, it's having a far smaller impact. If I'm able to reduce it by 90%, I'm able to reduce my impact of price increases by 90%. Yeah, so it's super, super important, especially for the low income people. So Passive House is ideal for social housing. Yeah, it must be Passive House. Passive House is the lowest standard that we should build to, not the best standard. It's the lowest standard we should be building to. Yeah, okay. And Passive House can cut the household energy to half. So your home is the biggest one of investment, the biggest ongoing cost, mortgage fixed and running cost, high fluctuation. and where you spend most of your time of your life. You're spending 50% of your time in your home, and over 30% and 30% of your time in your own bed. Yeah, the bedroom is the most important room in your building because you're spending so much time there. Okay, so passive house economics. So let us talk about the low risk investment. Passive house is a low risk investment. Why is it a low risk investment? Because you're investing into quality. Passive house is quality. Instead, the difference to investing into quality is now burning fossil fuels, yeah, burning your money, instead investing into fuel, into energy efficiency. Yeah, so that, and as well, when we're investing into quality, into performance, we are reducing the risk of fuel poverty. I don't know if you covered that already, but in Europe, we talk a lot about fuel poverty, that people are not able to heat and cool their houses any longer. Like in the UK, it's a really common thing that people can't heat their whole house, so they're only heating one room. Here in Australia, I know families in the summertime, they're all sleeping in the sitting room because that's the only aircon they can afford to run, that split system in that room. Yeah, and they can't cool the whole house down. So they're doing that because of survival. The whole family now sleeping under a small split system, and I don't want to sleep with a split system running anyway. So it's not a solution for me. In Spain, you have the older generation. The older generation is going into the shopping centers because they're climatized, they're cool. So now in the summertime, they're going in there and they're cooling down. But what will happen if they're not healthy enough to leave their building any longer and they can't afford it? Yeah, it's a death sentence. Yeah, so we really need to look into that. And then there's a limiting amount of breaking parts. Yeah, like here, this is what we're trying to do in the moment. Okay, we are losing something here, put something in here, here. So a lot of technology in there, and all that things could break. A passive house, we just have a heat recovery ventilation system, a split system. You're using the sun, happy days. Like really low tech technology we can use in passive house. Yeah, so it's a completely different approach. Then it's a long-term return of investment. Yeah, so long-term return of investment, in other words, passive house is your ideal investment into the retirement. Yeah, so it's the ideal investment. So if you're looking now at a normal house that is operating at a temperature between 20 and 25 degrees, like we can't compare apples with oranges. If you say now we look at the normal house that is not heated and cooled, but the temperature is now ranging from 8 degrees to 35 degrees, sorry, mate, like that's not comfortable. That's a health threat. Yeah, so we have to compare apples with apples. So that's the reason we say we look at a normal house that is operated at 20 to 25 degrees. We say it's a 200 square meter house and our energy cost increase is just 2% per year. So if you say our annual heating and cooling cost is 3,500 and our additional energy cost is 3,500, that's now operational costs for your fridge, your cooking and all that bits and pieces. So now we're coming here to $7,000 in year one. After 60 years, we're already up here at what's that? $40,000. Yeah, so this is what is happening if you're building the way that we are living right now, and if you have an energy increase of 2% per year. So massive. Now, when we compare that to passive house, so we have these lines now in, these lines are the normal house. We see now the impact of passive house. Passive house obviously goes up as well, but we see now that the operational costs, like the annual heating and cooling costs, they are super, super small. And they nearly have no impact on the overall costs. Now the operational costs, they are going up the same, but now instead of $40,000, we're now down here at, what is that, $18,000 a year. Yeah. So this is now just looking at operational costs. That wouldn't be fair because let us be honest, passive house has higher building costs. Yeah, like if you have single glazing and you go for double or triple glazing, obviously we have to pay for that. If you're going from a building that has no air tightness in there and we're putting air tightness in there, obviously we have to put in air tightness, and that costs money as well. Then obviously we're having as well something like thermal insulation, probably that is adding as well a little bit of extra cost. So we have to acknowledge that the building materials that we have to buy, there are additional costs. Yeah. However, if we keep doing it, the planning and the execution gets better and better and better, so that the administration side of the costs, like doing things again and again and again, planning costs, execution costs, from not doing it perfectly planned, they will be reduced. So overall, a passive house actually could already be neutral or even cheaper than a normal build, because you solve the problems before you go to site. Problems are not solved on site, they're solved up front, and you're getting involved all the knowledge up front. You're like the architect, sorry guys, you only have 10% of the knowledge. You don't have the builder's knowledge, you don't have the plumber's knowledge, you don't have the engineer's knowledge, the mechanical engineer's knowledge. This knowledge needs to be put into the design process to come to an economical solution. And if you're doing that, then we're probably even able to produce it cheaper than a normal build, because now everybody communicates with each other far better. But if you're just saying we are having now additional costs for a passive house, because obviously there are additional costs. So now I'm saying here we're having an additional cost of $50,000 for passive house. That adds $250 per square meter. That's the additional cost of passive house, and that is easily achievable. And we say that the loan rate is 5% in 2020. So you're paying for your loan 5%. And we're saying we're having a loan period of 30 years. And now you see in the first year, we're having here additional costs, and we're pretty much the same cost than the normal build. So when we are now adding the operational costs and the additional loan that we have to pay off, and compare that now to the operational cost of the not upgraded house, the normal house, we see that there is nearly no additional investment. So overall, passive house is not costing you more, but instead of having this high risk of fluctuation of energy prices, you are investing into quality and having control over your economical freedom. Like it's simple as that. So additional free investment. Here's your annual heating and cooling costs savings is $3,150. Loan period is 30 years. And now the total heating and cooling cost savings over 30 years is like $100,000. Like it's simple as that. And then loan interest rate is 5%. So in other words, if you're looking at this, we're having free $48,000 available to invest into the building without additional financial burdens in the first year. In my example here now, I went now and say, okay, we go for $375 per square meter, $75,000 additional costs. So now you're having a little bit of luxury already in there. So now, because we have to keep in mind, if you're doing it the first time, obviously everybody is new to it. We spent more time on it. So it probably could cost a bit more, but 50,000 is a really realistic figure, but the builder is often putting a safety margin on it. So let us say it's another $25,000 that they're putting on. So now here in the first year, the additional investment or the additional financial burden over the year is $1,651. In other words, a coffee a day, $4.57. So instead of having one takeaway coffee and maybe making a coffee at home, you are actually already having the investment for your passive house. Even with a builder that is completely new to it, it's possible, no problems. After 16 years, it's already switching around. Even with this additional investment of $75,000, the passive house is now already more economical. When the loan is paid off, we are now, like here, we're having this massive drop, guys. So now the loan is paid off. We paid for this additional investment, and now we're having like not only one free holiday, I would already say multiple free holidays a year additional in our retirement. Would that not be great if you know that your house is now giving you another 2 free holidays a year just because you were smart about your investment? If you're saying now 60 years, it's $18,000 additional in your pocket. It's massive amount of money additional in your pocket. In other words, this project would have saved in 60 years $365,000. Now, when we speak in this bigger planning idea and speaking of a society, if our society is able to spend, every household is able to spend another $365,000 a year in the 60 years. This is a massive boost for the economy at the end. Like this boost is extreme, and we paid it off after this 30 years. Yeah, and now every household has $18,000 in their pockets. Like, come on, like spending another $18,000 per household in our economy, that will boost us dramatically. And that's not for bloody burning fossil fuel. Like, it's now for quality time, for probably having a physio, having your health looked after, having a holiday, having more efficient materials and things like that out there. So yeah, so it is up to you. Do you want to have your coffee, or do you want your health for your family, for yourself? Do you want to have the sustainability for yourself, for the generations to come? And if you want to make money, it's up to you. Coffee or all the other three things. Yeah, so it's up to you. So for the additional financial burden of a coffee a day in the first year, guys, only in the first year, your family is living now in a healthy and sustainable home. You're getting rid of your second mortgage, the heating and cooling bill, and you're making an ideal investment into your retirement. It only makes sense, guys. Yeah, financially secure. So now it's financially secure. So we're having already that situation that banks like Bank Australia are giving you a lower interest rate for your loan when you're going for passive house. And now that's how, like, Bank Australia is an ethical bank, and they want to support things like passive house, but they're not only doing that because of that. In reality, studies show us that people living in high-performing buildings like passive houses are more likely to pay back their mortgage. So there's a lower risk for the bank to give a loan, and that must be reflected in our interest rate. Yeah, so this must be reflected, and Bank Australia is already doing it. Good. Then recap. Low risk investment, investing into quality, increase of value for the property, calculated risk, and you're staying in your financial means. Like, guys, the problem that I see a lot in design is that people now max out their mortgage. Yeah, and now they're building this brick are going up, they're having no control over it. Yeah, this passive house, it forces them to some extent to stay in the financial means. So I think it's a massive advantage to sticking to these rules of economics. Then long-term return of investment, minimum or no additional saving $365,000 a year. So the conclusions. Recap health again. We spend over 90% indoors, so we really have to look after health in our buildings. It's an artificial environment that we created, and we have to make that healthy. The indoor environment should not give any cause for health risks. The indoor climate must be comfortable because comfort is health. Then recap sustainability. Climate change is caused by us. We are letting off 3 Hiroshima bombs of heat in our oceans every single second. The building industry and the use of buildings are responsible for 39% of the CO2 emission globally. So we are the solution, guys. Energy efficiency, reduce the heating and cooling often by more than 90%. You can reduce the emissions by over 50%, and you're gaining health and comfort with the whole thing. Then, and a passive house is the lowest hanging fruit for fighting climate change. Recap economics. You're investing into quality, you have a calculated risk, you're staying in your financial means. For a minimum of an additional, for minimum or no additional financial burden, you're getting your free holidays and your returns of investment. So what can passive house deliver? So air quality, passive house is the solution. Comfort, passive house is the solution. Sustainability, passive house is the solution. Economics, passive house is the solution. So the next steps, that is normally automated, so that takes the fun away. But anyway, we are already able to create shelters, structurally sound, and protect us from the elements. This is where we are in the Australian building industry. Now with Passive House, we're getting healthy indoor environments, comfortable indoor environments, sustainable buildings that are economical. Now there's obviously more steps. Passive House is the lowest quality we should be building to. Yeah, we have to go to energy producers so that our buildings become the power stations of our nation. Yeah, the energy storage need to be looked after, so our buildings could become energy storage. Then we need to get net zero energy buildings. And then we need to become fully zero energy buildings, because this bloody net stuff and fully energy, like all that is not defined. Yeah, it's only described, and what is net for you is not net for me. What is full for me is not net, is not full for you. So full for me means really full. The energy is needed to produce the building. The energy is needed to put it back into the grave, and the operational of the building, plus all the storage losses on the way are in there. Then I call it fully zero energy buildings. And then smart buildings and plus energy buildings, so that they are becoming the power stations. And when we're putting the smart buildings and the plus buildings together, we're coming to our smart plus buildings. So this is the whole concept of Smart Plus Academy. That's our vision, the smart plus buildings. Okay, why Passive House? Passive House is not only described, it is defined. It's a legally binding performance. It's an independent party that looks over it. And it's proven to, it's a proven concept in any climate zone. That's the reason we go for Passive House. So guys, it's our responsibility as a professional in the building industry, because our industry is the biggest driver for climate change, and people spending over 90% of their time indoors, and we are creating these environments. So it's our responsibility, and it is as well us, we are the solution. And we are able to improve the health of people out there, and we are able to really fight climate change in the same time. That's what we're able to do. So now with us, like I said before, we are offering the courses. When you do the courses with us, our standard is that you will get the best Passive House course ever delivered in Australia. Maybe soon we have to change that from Australia to globally. But that's our standard. We always improve. There is no perfection. Perfection is the low standard, because otherwise you think you can't improve it. So we always go there. So what is the Passive House Mastery, Passive House Design Mastery? That's what we're having now. So that's the normal Passive House course, what other Passive House course providers provide as well. So normally 8 days. The first 5 days is the Passive House concept. The next 3 days is then the implementation of Passive House, the way that we structure it. And then we're having as well exercises and recordings of that exercises with solutions, so you can go through them. Then you're getting homework, and not a little. You're getting 1 to 3 hours of homework every single day. In other words, these 8 days is the same amount of work you would do in a 1-year master degree. Guys, Dijan can tell you it's full on. Yeah, so this is the course. Yeah, then what we're giving you as well is a 2-day exam preparation. Yeah, with 2 mock-up exams, so that you're ready for the exam. And then obviously there is the exam. You can do it online or face-to-face. And now we're having a new course that we're calling PALAMA, Passive House Language and Mathematics, as a course. And this is now a full course that prepares you for the course, because all my students, when they're going in there, they don't know the language, the Passive House language. They don't know the mathematics, and we're preparing them to actually understand the language mathematics, because especially the mathematics is something that people are scared of, especially coming from the design background. So this is the reason we want to take that edge off a little bit, and having this 1-day preparation. And again, that will be available as recording, so you can go over it again and again and again, so that you're ready for the course itself. Then Passive House Design Mastery. This is what we offer. New is now this language course. And you guys, being now here in this group, you're getting a 50% discount. Yeah, for the full-time students, you're getting a 50% discount, and that means you're getting the whole package for $2,897. I can't really give you a discount for the certification because I'm already at the limit there. It's controlled by me. Then I send it over to Germany, the Passive House Institute. They're correcting it as well, and I'm paying fees to them. So I can't reduce that, but I can reduce the prices for you for the Palama course, the course itself, and the exam prep. Yeah, and that's what you're getting from me. And then our offer is a 50% reduction for the whole course, excluding the exam fees, and a scholarship that is giving away yeah, you will figure out how that works, Dijan, and that's what we do. So what we're realizing with people doing the course, often people say we want to design and construct healthy and sustainable buildings, but not sure how to actually do that. Yeah, like they're not certain about it. Then not sure if it's financially feasible for them, and not like passive house is financially feasible, and then not really sure where to start with the whole process. After the course, you know how to design and construct sustainable buildings, and you understand health is the driver for the whole thing. You can see that it is that how the finance works. You really get that, and then you're totally inspired, and you want to act. And I guess you felt my energy in this presentation. So this is what you're getting for this fire hose. You're getting for this whole time. Julia is now teaching mainly. I'm only there interrupting her and getting my craziness in there. But yeah, this is what you're getting, and this energy is what you're getting. Yeah, and I would love to be your guide and help you to be your hero in your own success story. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It was fantastic. It was just fantastic. The amount of facts, the amount of, resources, the amount of like the things that you revealed in this presentation, they were just like I would never know, like making one coffee could, make that much of a difference in my,
Yes.
in my health system or in my surroundings. It was just amazing. So people, if you have any questions, start shooting in the chat box, or just feel free to, come off mute and ask straight away to Daniel.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, so there's a question from Sophia.
I can only confirm that it was this kind of, it was a whole day presentation, whole day course for almost 2 weeks. And it was every hour was like this, but it is absolutely worth it. It's yeah, I can confirm everything that Daniel has.
Sophia has got a question, and she's asking, is it easy to upgrade an existing structure to passive house?
Is it easy to upgrade any structure generally and doing retrofits? I must say retrofit is the mastery of construction, if you ask me, because you have to face things that you have no clue about it. Yeah, so if you do retrofits, always get a really experienced builder involved that knows the area that you're doing the retrofit, that has been there for the last 30, 40 years and says, yeah, behind that wall, you will find X, Y, Z. Yeah, so that's important. So retrofit is that super difficult thing. Generally, passive house, yes, there is a passive house, and we teach that as well. One day is just on retrofit. We teach about how to actually execute retrofit, and there's 2 different ways. One is called the step-by-step retrofit, where you actually say, okay, we now have to change our external facade. So while the external facade is done, let us do the thermal upgrade as well of the facade. Yeah, so don't let any opportunity pass without even upgrading. And then windows are exchanged, and you do that, and you're putting a retrofit step-by-step plan into place for this building. And you're thinking about, how could I connect now my thermal insulation that I'm installing now on my facade today to the window in the future? So make it easy for the builder in the future, so that at the end, when he's replacing the old window, he's just putting it in. Air tightness already thought of, the connection points are already thought of, and makes it easy. So that's the step-by-step. And then obviously as well, the whole in one go retrofit is possible as well. But retrofit is always, there's always things to look out for. Like there's always surprises, and we have done a few retrofits in Australia already, and we have to see now where the failures are. Like, it's so easy to say, they should have known and all that. Like, especially in retrofits, like we have to see where the mistakes are. Like, for example, in Canada, I know they retrofitted not to passive house, but they retrofitted thermal insulation internally into a historical building, and the brickwork was not able to keep it externally. So now the whole hand-carved bricks on the outside came down because they were not frost protected any longer from the heat that was created in the building and was then heating that facade. So that heating of the environment was actually protecting the facade to not come down. Yeah, or we have in Germany buildings after the, don't mention the war, but after the war, we had so many destroyed buildings and bricks lying around. So we had to rebuild Germany. So now there was the regulation that you could put in, after 1.5 meters of fresh brick, new brick, 3 layers of broken brick. And that has now an impact on the moisture transport, on the vapor transport. And if you're not thinking of that, then you could actually have these 1.5 meter lines where the moisture is coming through and mold is coming through. So you need to understand your structure, despite passive house or not passive house. Yeah. So yes, it is possible to upgrade to passive house.
I'm also working at the moment on it's even design-wise, it's much more work on when you have to do the redesign on existing house, because you have to survey existing, explore the materials, explore the structure, explore everything, document it, and then start actually designing it. So it's even in design side, it's extra work.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the third retrofit solution, my favorite. It's called the Russian renovation, and the Russian renovation works that way, that you are buying 5 canisters of petrol, 1 petrol canister for every corner, 1 for putting a line out, and then light it up. Yeah, start fresh. Like often we have to really think with retrofit, is it worthwhile keeping that structure? 20% of the energy is embodied energy, 80% of the energy is the use of the building. So that's the first thing that we have to keep in mind. So performance comes first, and if you're knocking it down and rebuilding it to passive house, and before it wasn't able to be built to passive house, it will be more sustainable in the long run. However, only, and I must stress that, only if that building can stay there for the next 50 or 100 years. Yeah, if you have to knock it down in 10 years, passive house is not a sustainable solution. Yeah, then you build you build a tent. Yeah, for 10 years. It makes no sense to go in this high quality builds if that building is not able to stay at that place for 50 or 100 years. And I think we massively have to change our approach of construction. We need to create movable structure. So everything is prefabricated, and then we bring it on site, and now we are joining it, but the joints are designed in a way that we can take it apart again and now sell that to another site. Like especially inner city, we still have here in the city, in Sydney, single-story buildings or 2-story buildings in the inner city. These buildings probably would, like, there will be some of them will be protected, but other buildings will be knocked down. Doing now a retrofit of them is probably not worth it, because in 5 years somebody buys that site, not the building. And now when they're buying the site, they're thinking of the site minus the building. So if the site has a value of 10 million, and now the destruction of the building costs you, say, 100,000 to make it $20,000 or 50,000. So they're taking the 10 million minus the $50,000. So it's the 9,950,000. Yeah, but in the case you're having now a movable structure, it's plus the building. And if you're able to sell that building for another 500,000, it's now 10.5 million, the value of that site. Yeah, so we need to get that in our head, that we have to think differently, that we have to build structures that we can move from A to B. And look to the development of Sydney in the last 100 years. Yeah, we have to keep that in mind in our design. Yeah.
Okay, so Krishna and Sophia, if you have any more questions, now is the time. Krishna, do you have any questions? We can have a bit more energy, guys. Daniel has, yeah, all good, thanks. Okay, so Dayan, would you like to share any of your passive house?
I think it was very, very, you know, full on, and I think people are going to go over this presentation a few times. Thank you very much, Daniel, and thank you for your kind offers for you know, winning the competitors. I think we have suggested that your offer for a full scholarship is going to go for a individual who is the presenter, and it is you know, it's very valuable award prize. So thank you very much for that, and yeah, I wish you all the best in your educational efforts in the future. It's extremely important for a country and for future generations as well. That's why I thought it's very important for you to talk to these students that are just finishing or coming into a profession, because they are going to enjoy the benefits of what you are presenting.
Yeah, and don't accept a no for an answer, guys.
Yes.
So it is possible, guys.
So I guess we are ready to jump off, but a massive thanks to you, Daniel, for, you know, awakening us, letting us know health is wealth, and like all the facts that you shared. It was just amazing piece of resource. I hope, like, I guess I would be, you know, coming to you sometime soon for sure, to learn more about Passive House. And I hope others, it might have, you know, influenced others in thinking about the changes they are making in the construction industry. Like, we are all involved in construction industry. So thanks again, and thanks to all those who had joined us today, who would be watching this session later, and to all the sponsors and contributors and Smart Plus Academy.